Welcome to a new video on Mid9M's channel. Today we're plunging into the depths of the unknown, unearthing a gripping tale that will chill you to your bones. Picture this: an enormous room, the walls covered in mirrors reflecting the pristine white concrete beneath. Among this eerie silence, awaken three figures: a man, a woman, and a child clad in white jumpsuits. Their memories, a void as stark as the room that confines them. As the tale unwinds, they encounter an ethereal terror that sporadically lurks within the room. Prepare to journey with us into this harrowing tale. Remember to keep those lights on and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more petrifying tales. Let's dive right in. The subjects awoke in what looked to be a huge room with large mirrors on the walls above. The concrete walls and floor were painted white. Very recently too, as some parts were still drying. All three were dressed in white jumpsuits. The man stood up holding his head like he had a hangover, and then looked over and saw his cellmates, a woman and a child. He first thought they were mother and child. The woman on her hands and knees was struggling to get up, but the child, who was an 8-year-old boy, helped her. Hey. The man shouted, startling them. Who are you? And where am I? Feeling like she just woke up from sleeping on a concrete floor, she calls out, I know about as much as you call, sir. The woman stood up to her feet with help from the boy. But that is a good question. The man and woman looked at the boy. Hey. I don't know, the boy said awkwardly while averting eye contact and twisting the tip of his shoe on the floor. That was the best case he could make. The man calmed down. Maybe this is jail or something. Maybe I got fucked up and they brought me in. Watch your mouth in front of this child, the woman angrily said to him. She reminded both the guys of their mothers. It's okay. I've heard worse at school, the boy told them that. But he also gave off the impression that he didn't cuss, when in fact, he could cuss with the best of em. So why all two got zonked? But I don't know why I'm here. All I remember was walking home after school. You're pretty young to be walking home after school, the man asserted. Hey, I didn't get zonked, all right. I was at my job on a 12-hour shift, last thing I remembered. The woman retorted, as the boy started laughing at her frustration. Suddenly the alerted group turned their heads to the loud sound. Like deer catching wind of something. A gate began to open, a dark hole revealing itself. The opening was rather small, but first thoughts were that maybe it's a way out. Maybe we could fit through there. We could get out and get ... Four long objects began emerging from the darkness. The objects looked like pointy bones with an edge on them. Following them, a large limb reached out from the black hole. They weren't scared yet. They didn't understand what was happening, what was coming for them. The young boy, who you will not know the name of, figures it out first. That was a hand, with claws coming out of its 5 fingers. It had scales. The reptilian claw grabbed the side of the cage, then another appeared and grabbed the other side. It pulled itself out of the dark hole and slumped to the ground. There was nothing they could do. Their minds too busy racing with confusion and terror to realize what was about to happen to them. All they could do was stare at the thing in a state of what in God's name is that ... It stood up straight on its raptor-like feet. From the distance of about 50 yards, half the distance of the big white cell, it looked like a big man holding about 10 machetes who'd been burnt to black. From about 20 yards. It was a monster out of your worst nightmares. Standing still, with arms stretching out, twisting its head and neck about, like it had been stuck in that damned cramp hole for too long. Dark black and red scales covered its body. Its head hung at its shoulders, its mouth no wider than a human's, filled with sharp teeth. Its arms lowering to its sides, its long claws clanging together. Then, the creature's glowing red eyes met the group's, frozen in absolute fear. Not a sound made, not a muscle moved, as the three stood still like statues, unable to make their bodies do anything. Their bodies knew better. They could feel themselves being pierced by its gaze. Those red eyes stared into them with absolute joy for what it's about to do to them. The boy was frightened, holding to the women like he did with his mother when he was smaller. He was one of those kids that wiped his mom's kisses off his face because he believed he was too old for such things. She wrapped her arms around him, protecting him. The three. The man was an atheist. He always said of God, I'll believe it when I see it. In that short moment of dead silence, where converting him would have been easy. He was sure that he was being stared down by a demon that just crawled out of hell right before his eyes. The woman was thinking that ... Oh God. The creature lunges towards them, screaming at them loud with a deep guttural screeching. It's coming for them. Moving at an inhuman speed. Their eyes couldn't track it if it hadn't been beelining straight for them. 50 yards of space was gone in the blank of an eye. The monster's bloodthirst hadn't been quenched in such a long time, and it wanted to kill them so badly. In a futile move, the man pushed the woman and boy in front of him. He turned around and began to run, screaming and crying harder than the woman and child. His mind overflowed with "this isn't happening," so much so, but it was pouring from his mouth. "This isn't happening, this isn't happening." Not Maine. The two on the ground were helpless, holding each other tight, as they closed their eyes and waited. The moment they waited for didn't come. Not yet. Her eyes opened for a glimpse, but nothing was there. A moment of relief was met with another terrible silence. She turned her head. She looked and saw 10 feet away. The man was just standing there, but no, he wasn't standing. His feet were not touching the ground. Her eyes honed in on the face above the man's head. That face it looked like a big smile. No skin or lips around the mouth, just exposed sharp teeth. It was holding him up effortlessly with one clawed hand, but there was no blood. The man was shaking uncontrollably. Staring into its eyes. She could hear him whispering, "God help me. Someone save me." The devil's free hand rose up slowly as the man's eyes followed, scraping its claws together, making the last sound he'll ever hear. God was all she heard as she closed her eyes tighter than before. Right as its hand swiped across. She felt blood raining down on her head, and her eyes came open again. The same sight as before, but this time there was no head. Just blood spewing from where it used to be. What was left of the neck was sticking up, puking out filth with a little white sharp piece of neck bone poking out, separating the flow and spraying it everywhere like a sprinkler. What she didn't see was his head splitting like a watermelon, becoming a red stain in its hand. The creature slung the corpse away after its amusement had faded. She didn't close her eyes again. She knew she had to do something. But there was nothing she could do. She stood up. The kid was scared to death and wouldn't let her go. She pushed him away and yelled at him and she was cut off. The boy reminded her of her little brother. She was very protective of him. In this situation, she acted out of instinct. In her mind, she was going to distract the creature so the boy could run away. Maybe he could jump in that hole and escape. But the creature, in a movement so swift that not even the boy could have warned her in time, penetrated her through the nape of her neck and out through her throat with the tip of its sharp finger in a come-over-here gesture. Solid red trickles raced down the chest of her white jumpsuit. Her lips moved one more time. "Run." The nail pulled from her throat, and the full set came back with such a force. Her body was turned into ... The boy initially saw just a cloud of red ... dissipating. What was left wasn't even a body anymore. The boy didn't have a semblance or a single hope of fathoming the horror in front of him. His body went into autopilot, getting up and running as fast as he could. But even if he did survive this, he would never get over something like this. For sure. His well-being was forever lost after this. But the thing did not chase him. The boy hit the corner opposite of the gate where the monster came from. His back to the corner, looking right at it. It didn't move. The creature shook blood and bloody chunks from its knives and started walking back to the gate. The small cage still open. The creature stepped in. The boy did not take his eyes off of it. It turned and looked back at the boy, 100 yards on the other side of the cell. The boy saw the red eyes. He covered his eyes. The gate closed. The boy's name was Zach. Zach was a good kid. He wanted to play baseball, but his mom wouldn't let him start until his grades came up. He didn't know why he was here. The very last thing he remembered was walking home from school because he lived just a few blocks away. He heard the gates close. He didn't move at all. He stayed put. Nothing happened. He was waiting for someone to come. Maybe his mother and father will come find him. Hours went by, though it was much longer to him. He finally stands up, shaking because his nerves are no longer stable. He walks with his eyes locked on the gate. He can't even begin to gather his thoughts, let alone wonder on a way out. But something caught his eye. He focused as far as his could tell. There was something next to the gate like a black line, a crack. It wasn't closed. In that moment, he didn't feel anything. He didn't feel the puncturing of his flesh. He didn't feel his spinal cord sever. He didn't even feel his insides turn into something you'd see in a blender. His body was in shock, overwhelmed with processing pain. Just a little movement was left in his neck. He could only look around aimlessly, no understanding of what has happened to him, until he looked down. In his blurring vision, he saw 4 long white things that looked like dinosaur teeth covered in red. 2 of them had grazed his sides, while 2 were going through him. Blood erupted in his throat. He choked on it, coughing up what little life was left in his young body. The claws redacted, and the boy fell lifeless like a rag doll. The pool of blood he laid in looked like a mud puddle that he might have played in once a long time ago. The last thing he could see, or thought he saw, was his mother. She was telling him to come inside and clean up. Written by Jacob Pittman.